In the videos I've made, I feel like I've discussed just about everything it takes to improve at this game, at least as far as I know at this point. Hopefully as I improve, I'm able to continue to say more, but I've said what I know in regards to mechanics and rotations, and really a lot of the specifics of the game. But I've been thinking a lot lately about something that's really helped me in terms of strategy in the last few months, and the great thing is this applies to anyone. You don't have to be at a certain rank to really apply this to your game. I'm getting really close to getting GC again, and I really do think that this is one of the main reasons I've been able to get back up close to GC, because I was stuck in like high champ 2, low champ 3 for most of this season so far. So I think the first seeds of this Rocket League strategy started for me back about a year ago when I first started noticing the way that pro players and teams approach the first few minutes of a match.
Yeah, a lot of side-to-side gameplay, not really much happening. You see Cloud9 in particular waiting for mistakes to happen here from out of style.
So you'll often hear the casters talk about how teams sort of feel each other out, how they really focus on defense and rotations at the start, and they really don't play very aggressive for the first minute or until the first goal is scored. So this sort of planted the seed in my mind that as you play Rocket League, you sort of approach a match with potentially different levels of aggression depending on what the circumstances are. So I've sort of created a formula that I think makes sense. If you're wanting to win more games, you can apply this or try this out and see if it helps you. And it's based on the proposition that in Rocket League, goals are scored relatively often, and it's actually relatively easy to score a goal, especially in comparison to something like football or soccer, as we call it in the States. Yes, the scores are often the same, 3-2 in soccer, or even 1-0. That happens in Rocket League too, although a lot of my matches seem to be like 3-6 and stuff like that. But Rocket League is 5 minutes, and traditional sports are much longer. So your chances of scoring on any given drive down the field or down the pitch are much lower in traditional sports. But again, you have more time. And I guess maybe this is a bit of a feel thing for me. It just feels like goals happen quite a lot, and the possibility of scoring a goal is pretty high in Rocket League if you really want to. So with that knowledge, I believe there are only 2 instances where you want to play at least somewhat passive, and that is when you are tied, as we see at the start of many professional matches, and when you're down 1 goal. Now obviously this all depends on how much time is left. If you're down 1 goal with 20 seconds, say, you should definitely be more aggressive than if you're down a goal with, say, 50 seconds or 4 minutes. So this sort of changes as the match goes on, like the level of passiveness or aggressiveness. And I should clarify what I mean. This doesn't mean that you just hang back and do nothing, like no attacking, no aggressing, no speed. You definitely need all of those things to play high-level Rocket League at any given moment. It's really a mindset more than anything. What are you focusing on? How much risk are you taking? That sort of thing. Are you staying upfield looking for passes often, or are you defaulting to sort of rotating back and keeping that basic rotation going? Now, this isn't exactly revolutionary, this idea of playing somewhat passive when you're tied or when you're down a goal, but let me sort of explain my reasoning, and especially why I believe you should play more aggressive when down 2 goals or when up a goal, and why you should play somewhat more passive when you're tied or when you're down a goal. It's basically, again, this concept that goals happen often in Rocket League, and if you're down a goal, you cannot risk going down 2 goals. I don't know what percentage of games are won when you're ahead by 2 goals, but it's definitely very high, much higher than when you're down 1 goal. So the 2-goal lead is, in my opinion, the absolute most important thing that can happen in a game. That's sort of the thing I'm going for when I'm playing. That along with scoring the first goal, which is also very important. Now I know there are probably plenty of times that you can think of, where you came back from a 2-goal deficit or even a 3-goal deficit, and it does happen. But more often than not, if the other team is following this model, they will keep aggressing once they have that 2-goal lead, and you'll put your guard down and start to go for some stuff, and that lead will become 3 or 4, and the game will basically be over. So to put it simply, when you're ahead by a goal, your goal should be to make that a 2-goal lead. I don't believe that when you're ahead by goal, you should just, sit back and play passive, unless, again, you have like 15-20 seconds left. So, it varies depending on the time, but you should play aggressive, because if they score on you, it's not that big of a deal. You're still tied, and you just sort of go back to playing, more basic rotational Rocket League and, try to force a mistake. But I see this a lot in RLCS. It feels like teams will go up a goal, and then they just start aggressing like crazy. And yes, they often make a mistake, but they seem to be shooting for that elusive 2-goal lead because there's just nothing like a 2-goal lead in Rocket League. That's the ultimate goal. If you can get that, you have a really good chance of winning. So to be simplistic, because like I said earlier, there's always caveats like how much time is left, what kind of team you're playing, all of that. But in simplistic terms, be aggressive when you're down more than 1 goal or when you have a lead of any kind. So if you're up at all, just keep playing aggressive. When you're up 3, 4, 5 goals, just keep playing aggressive because there's no risk really. Play more passive and I guess just more solid when you're tied or when you're down a goal. And I'm sure there are other potentially better strategies for Rocket League in terms of aggression, and I'm definitely open to hearing those. I feel like this idea of when to play more aggressive and when to sort of sit back, it's really just not talked about very much. And I can just hear it now. A lot of you guys might be thinking, well, you just play the same all the time, regardless of the situation. You just play your game. And some of you would be like, well, you just play super aggressive. And some of you would be like, well, you just play more basic and let people make mistakes. And you know, there is some truth to that, but we know that's not how RLCS teams play. So it probably isn't how we should play either. Maybe you have a better way of working out this formula. Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, that would be super helpful. Also, subscribe for more fun, educational Rocket League content like this. Keep grinding, guys. I know I'm on my way to Grand Champ in the next couple of weeks. I hope you get to whatever goals you're working towards, whether it's gold or Grand Champ or whatever it is in between. Thanks for watching. Peace out.